Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I want to talk about why I ended up choosing boxing as opposed to other popular martial arts like Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu as the martial arts of choice. First of all, I think everyone should practice some form of martial arts. It doesn't really matter which one it is. There are tremendous benefits in pursuing the consistent practice of martial arts. A lot of guys have talked about this online, especially if you watch the Joe Rogan podcast. He talks about it all the time. He's a huge proponent of martial arts. But just from my personal experience, there are a few things that, regardless of which martial arts you decide to take, you're going to improve about yourself. The first one is your self-confidence. It has nothing to do with your ability to kind of defend yourself. It's not really much about that, because then we could get into an argument of which martial arts is more effective as a form of self-defense, and there's really no end to this kind of argument. So I'm trying to steer away from that topic of conversation. But boosting your self-confidence through martial arts is going to come almost naturally, because no matter what form of martial arts you're going to pursue, you're going to have to face some kind of form of adversity, whether it's through sparring an opponent, whether it's through the toughening of certain, bones or joints, or whether it's just by the fact that you're learning something new, that you're acquiring a new skill. So you're going to increase your self-defense. The second thing that you're going to, the second benefit rather of pursuing the martial arts is, of course, you're going to develop self-discipline. Because when you're pursuing martial arts, you're going to have to practice certain techniques or improve your overall stamina, speed, power, and those things can only be obtained through repetition after repetition. Endless practice of the same thing over and over again. So that will ultimately, by default, improve your discipline, right? And then the third thing is that it promotes creativity. So again, regardless of which martial art you choose, there are always some form of tactical and strategic thinking when it comes down to martial arts, whether it's a grappling art or a striking art. It doesn't really matter. So you're going to have all those three benefits regardless of which martial arts you choose. Now, coming back to things that are boxing specific, and this is coming from my personal experience. The first reason why I really like boxing over the other martial arts as a striking martial art is that it allows you to adopt a more defensive and evasive style of fighting as opposed to, let's say, Muay Thai. So from my experience, I've taken a few Muay Thai classes before, and yes, you are able to be kind of evasive with Muay Thai, but for the most part, it's more about kind of trading blows and blocking, right? It's your defensive maneuvers tend to be more focused on blocking and delivering a more significant blow towards your opponent. But in boxing, you can, if you're slick, you can be essentially like a ghost, right? You can't be hit. And what I really like about this is that it adds that level of gamification to the martial arts, so that when you're playing with your sparring partner, you can adopt this playful, trying to evade punches as much as possible, as opposed to just kind of biting down on your mouthpiece and just blocking and receiving that impact onto your body, and then delivering, some form of striking back towards your sparring partner. So that's the first one, the first reason why I really like boxing. The second one is that it allows you to actually practice by yourself in solitude. A lot of grappling arts like judo and jiu-jitsu requires you to have a partner in order for you to practice certain drills and moves and techniques. So it's very difficult. It's almost impossible for you to kind of practice it alone. But in boxing, you can shadow box forever and ever. And it's actually one of the most useful training methods of boxing, as opposed to even in comparison to even hitting the heavy bags, for example, because shadow boxing allows you to visualize your opponent, to really develop your creativity and develop your visualization, and allows you to be intentional with all of your movements. You can practice different techniques. You can practice being evasive, being aggressive. You can practice counterattacks, all just by shadow boxing. And you can do this alone, and you can do this anywhere without any equipment, which brings me to the third point. In boxing, with shadow boxing, when you want to practice, you can literally just get up out of bed in your underwear and just do it, right? You don't need to put on any equipment, no gloves, no protection, no gi, nothing. You can just do it anytime, anywhere, without any equipment, right? So that's the third reason why I ended up choosing boxing as opposed to other martial arts. The fourth reason, and this may be kind of subjective, but maybe not so much, is that it's really fun. Now, forget about trying to be competitive, or if you're not interested in sparring at all and actually being in a combative experience, it's totally fine. Just hitting pads or paddles, it's so fun. It's just like playing a video game where you have to kind of punch different things that pop out on the screen, but you can actually feel the impact, right? If you have a good trainer who is really good at holding a paddle or boxing mitts, you can basically practice any kind of combination and integrate both offensive and defensive maneuvers into your training. So, don't let people talk you into doing things that you don't want to do. If you're not into sparring, if you don't want to, let's say, go into the more combative aspect of martial arts, it's totally fine just to practice the artistic portion of it. Boxing is something that can be really slick, really beautiful, and it's so cool when your technique is so crisp. And you can do all of that, again, through shadow boxing or being really good at hitting mitts and paddles. So I think those are the kind of boxing specific reasons why I ended up choosing boxing over the other forms of martial arts, because everything else kind of applies to most other, let's say, functional martial arts that you end up choosing, like improve athleticism and overall body coordination. All of those things are applicable to other martial arts, but the things that I mentioned just now, I feel like they are more boxing specific than the others. So I really encourage people to adopt some kind of martial arts, and if you happen to have a nice or decent boxing gym around you, I think you should go. But if not, you can do what I did, which is I literally started practicing boxing at home by myself, just by watching YouTube videos. I learned everything about boxing in the beginning from YouTube videos. It wasn't until much later that I started going into my local boxing gym and applying the things that I practiced in sparring mode, because I do really enjoy the kind of game aspect of sparring, the playful aspect of sparring with my trainer and my sparring partners as well. Because if you do choose to get into that, it's like a whole different world than hitting the bags or hitting mitts and paddles. Because when you have a person in front of you, it's a whole different experience. You have to react and act at the same time. A lot of times you don't have time to think. You have to relax, but at the same time you have to read your opponent. You have to again, this idea that I talked about earlier, which is the promotion of creativity and tactical thinking. It becomes really apparent when you get into a sparring session with somebody that you trust. Okay, so hopefully this gives some ideas and inspirations for those of you who have been interested in martial arts but never really took up on it, which is something that I'm guilty of for many years. There's no need to be afraid. Again, there's no need to listen to people's opinions on you, saying that you suck, or this martial art sucked, that martial art is better, this is not useful, that's more useful in a street fight. Honestly, those things, it doesn't matter, because people will bring weapons and you're gonna get stabbed no matter if you know how to grapple or strike, right? So I don't want to get into that argument. To me, that's not the point of of this conversation. To me, boxing is just a hobby that I have. Some people like doing basketball, some people like playing tennis. You should think of boxing in that same way, is that it's a playful activity that you can do with other friends. Because if you think about it, when you play basketball with a friend, you get into physical contact as well, right? Sometimes you get elbowed in the face, sometimes your feet get stepped on, you stub your toe or stuff like that. The same thing in boxing, right? You play with your friend, and sometimes you eat a punch here and there, but we're not throwing punches with the intention to hurt each other, right? We're throwing punches with the intention to play, bait and evade and counter and all these things. So that's, to me, why boxing is really, really fun. Okay, so as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. I continue to upload videos about home workouts that you can do just with body weights and kettlebells. If you haven't tried my free 3-day workout program, I'll put the link in the description box below. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.